Summary of Like Water for Chocolate by Laura Esquivel. The story of Like Water for Chocolate takes place in northern Mexico around 1910 to 1920, during the Mexican Revolution. Each chapter opens with a recipe from Tita's cookbook, which the narrator, Tita's great-niece, has inherited. Before Tita is born, she cries in her mother Elena de la Garza's stomach while she chops onions. Mama Elena goes into labor because of her tears, and Tita is born on the kitchen table. Juan de la Garza died of a heart attack 2 days after she is born. Mama Elena has to run the ranch, so she leaves Tita with the cook, Nacha, who Tita comes to think of as her real mother. Tita grows up to love cooking more than her bigger sisters Gertrudis and Rosara. When Tita is 15 years old and it's a holiday, she tells Mama Elena that Pedro Musquiz wants to talk to her. Mama Elena gets angry and tells Tita that the family tradition is for the youngest daughter to stay at home and take care of her mother, until the mother dies, instead of getting married. Mama Elena tells Pedro that he can marry her older daughter Rosara instead of Tita. Pedro agrees to this. That night, Tita, who was cold and upset, kept crocheting the wedding blanket she had been making in secret for her possible wedding with Pedro. She remembers meeting Pedro at a holiday party the year before, where he told her he would love her forever. Tita's tears fall into the cake batter and frosting the night before the wedding. Pedro tells Tita in the receiving line after the wedding that he has only married Rosara so he can be closer to Tita. At the reception, everyone who eats the cake feels sad and sick to their stomachs, except for Tita. Tita didn't know it, but she magically put her hidden sadness into the cake. That night, when Tita gets home, Nacha is dead and holding a picture of her dead fiancé, whom Mama Elena's mother had sent away. Mama Elena thinks Tita put poison in the cake, so she beats her so hard that she has to stay in bed. A year later, Pedro and Rosara are still living at the ranch, and Rosara is pregnant. Pedro and Tita only talk about how they feel when Tita cooks and Pedro compliments her food. Pedro gives Tita roses one day, and she uses them to make quail in rose petal sauce. That night at dinner, Gertrudis is so sexually aroused that she can't stop eating. She runs outside to take a shower after dinner. The heat from her body sets fire to the shower, and she runs into a field naked. In a nearby fight, rebel Captain Juan Alejandrez sees a rose-colored cloud and leaves his group to run after it. He finds Gertrudis in the field, grabs her, and puts her on his horse, where they start making love. Mama Elena finds out a week later that Gertrudis is working in a brothel outside of town, and she burns Gertrudis' birth certificate. A few months later, federal troops surround the nearby town of Piedras Negras. When fighting breaks out in town, Mama Elena and Chincha have to hide. Rosara gives birth at the ranch, and Pedro goes to get Dr. John Brown. Pedro is taken by the feds, leaving Rosara with only Tita. Tita doesn't know anything about having babies, so she prays to Nacha for help and is able to give birth to her cousin. Tita is surprised by how much she loves Roberto. Everyone goes home when the fighting stops. Dr. Brown looks at Rosara and is amazed by how beautiful and skilled Tita is. Rosara is too sick to breastfeed, but Tita finds out that she has a magical ability to do so. She only tells Pedro this secret. Even though things are crazy in the country, Tita and all the people who eat her food at Roberto's baptism feel happy and hopeful. A few weeks later, Pedro sneaks up on Tita at night and they kiss intensely until Tita's mother calls for her. Mama Elena sends Rosara, Pedro, and Roberto to live in San Antonio a few days later. Tita starts to feel very sad. After a month, the fighting in Piedras Negras has gotten worse and there is less food. The rebels come to the ranch and ask for food. Mama Elena doesn't know it, but the captain is the same Juan Alejandrez who took Gertrudis away. When one of the men doesn't like the live chickens Mama Elena gives them, he suggests they break into the basement. Mama Elena shoots the chickens out of the soldier's hand and tells the captain she will kill him. Juan tells Mama Elena how much he likes her. His men kill all of the pigeons on the dovecot and leave. A few days later, Chencha tells them that baby Roberto has died. This news comes from San Antonio. Tita says that Roberto died because Mama Elena sent him away. Mama Elena hits Tita in the nose, breaking it. Tita gets up to the dovecot and spends the night there. She feeds worms to a baby pigeon that was left alone until it dies. Mama Elena tells Dr. John Brown the next day to take Tita to a place for people who are crazy. Instead, he takes her to his house, where he lives with his young son Alex. Tita stays at Dr. Brown's house, where he takes care of her and brings her back to health. She won't talk, so she spends the whole day making a blanket. In John's lab, she sees dreams of his grandmother, Morning Light, who was a kakapo doctor who used plant medicines to treat illness. John tells Tita that Morning Light's theory is that everyone is born with a box of matches inside them. Each person needs to find the right person to love and the right kinds of events that will make them feel strong emotions. If all the matches are lit at once, a bright tube appears and the soul leaves the body. Tita's health and mood get better over the next few months, and she starts to talk again. A few months later, Chincha shows up at John's house with soup for Tita made from an oxtail. She brings a letter from Gertrudis with her. In it, Gertrudis says that she works at a brothel to put out the fire inside. Tita tells Chincha that she is never coming back to the land again. That night, John tells Tita that he will ask her to marry him the next day. When Chincha gets back to her land, she is raped by a group of robbers. Even though Mama Elena tries to protect her, the thieves knock her out. Tita goes back to the house to take care of Mama Elena, who can't move because of what happened. Chencha needs to get better, so Tita sends her away to live in town. Mama Elena is sure that Tita is harming her because all of Tita's food tastes bitter to her. To get rid of Tita's poison, Mama Elena starts taking ipecac syrup in secret to make her throw up. A few weeks later, she dies because she's been using the sugar too much. Tita finds a secret box of letters from a guy named Jose Trevio while she is getting Mama Elena ready for her wake. She finds out that he was Mama Elena's childhood sweetheart, but that her parents broke them up because Jose was a mulatto, which means he was of Spanish and African descent. Mama Elena kept having an affair after she married Tita's father, which led to the birth of Gertrudis. Pedro and Rosara go to the funeral, and then they go back to the ranch to live. Esperanza, Rosara's second child, is born. After Rosara gives birth, John saves her life by taking out her uterus as part of an operation. Chencha comes back with Jess, the boy she loved as a child and who is now her husband. After Mama Elena's funeral, John officially proposes to Tita, and she says yes because she wants to learn to love him as much as she loves Pedro. John goes to the US to get his Aunt Mary so she can be at the wedding. Pedro finds Tita alone one night when he is out of town. This is the first time he and Tita have sex, and magical fireworks follow. Tita feels terrible about what she did, and she soon finds out she is pregnant. A month later, Gertrudis goes back home with the whole rebel troop she is now in charge of. Juan Alejandrez is by her side. They met again after she joined the army. Tita sees the ghost of Mama Elena, who yells at her. During Gertrudis's week-long party, she stays with Tita and makes her feel better. She makes Tita tell Pedro that she is pregnant, and Pedro suggests that they all run away. When Mama Elena's spirit comes back, Tita tells her to leave her alone. Tita's belly goes down, and it turns out that she isn't pregnant after all. When Pedro is at a party, the ghost turns into a firecracker and sets him on fire. When Rosara sees Pedro reach for Tita in front of the other guests, she goes to her room and locks the door. The next day, Gertrudis and her group leave for war. Rosara tells Tita not to embarrass her in public ever again, and she threatens to keep Esperanza away from her. Chencha is a new mom. When John comes back, Tita tells him she's been with another guy and can't marry him. John tells Tita he doesn't care and only wants her to choose the guy who will make her happy. Tita makes the choice to stay with Pedro. Rosara, on the other hand, won't let Pedro leave her. The three make a deal to live together quietly and help raise Esperanza, as long as Pedro and Tita don't tell anyone about their relationship. Tita spends a lot of time with Esperanza in the kitchen as she grows up, teaching her about life, love, and food. Esperanza and Alex, John's son, see each other again at a party after many years. Alex asks Esperanza to be his wife after he and Esperanza fall in love. Rosara says no, because she wants to keep up the custom of making the younger daughter give her whole life to her mother. Pedro and Tita are against Rosara, so the three of them fight very hard. A few weeks later, Rosara died of severe stomach pain. Esperanza and Alex get married after a year. When everyone eats Tita's chiles in walnut sauce at the wedding, they all get very excited. Everyone runs off to find a place to make love. When Tita and Pedro are alone, they have the hottest sex of their lives. Each of them sees a bright tube appear in front of them. Pedro goes in, but Tita fights him. When Tita finds out Pedro is dead, she starts eating candles and thinking about everything they did together. The tube shows up again. At the end, Pedro is waiting for her. Their bodies catch on fire, which causes a big volcanic blast that makes the land rich for a long time. The only thing that has remained is Tita's cookbook, which Esperanza gives to her daughter, who grows up to become the story's narrator.
About the author. Laura Alicia Palomares Esquivel was born in Mexico City. She is the daughter of Cesar Esquivel and Josefa Valdez. Esquivel's first job was as a teacher in a school. When she first started writing, she made up stories and plays for her children to act out. In 1975, she got married to the director Alfonso Arau. She started writing for TV, and her first and best-known book, Like Water for Chocolate, came out in 1989. The book was read all over the world, and in 1992, it was made into a movie. Since then, she has always been writing and publishing. Her books include her biography Between Two Fires, 1995, The Law of Love, 1996, Intima Suculencias, 1998, Estrelita Marinera, 1999, Libro de las Emociones, 2000, Swift as Desire, 2001, Malinche, 2006, Pierced by the Sun, 2016, and El Diario de Tita, 2016. Since 2008, Esquivel has also worked as a politician. In 2012, Esquivel stood for election as a federal representative for the Morena Party, and he was successful in winning that election. She lives in Mexico City.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.